Hello and welcome to Conversations. I'm Dr. David Dobson. Today, my guest is Vita Cao, whose formal name is Yijia Cao. Vita is a PhD candidate in marketing at Wilfrid Laurier University, and her research specializes in the psychology behind virtual and generative AI influencers. Today, we will discuss Vita's PhD research, which shows that when it comes to virtual influencers, it's not how real they look, but how human they are. Her findings are crucial for every brand navigating the uncanny valley of AI. Vita, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for your invitation.
Vita, your work is at the intersection of marketing, AI, and consumer psychology. What initially brought your interest to this topic?
Well, to be honest, I have to say I'm just always been a very heavy social media user myself. So I follow a lot of influencers and watch their videos on YouTube and Instagram. So I always pay attention to how they recommend products and follow them to buy them. So, for example, how they speak and how they create a sense of connection with the audience always make me interested. So over time, I just start to notice something interesting. So with the rise of the generative AI, I found that more and more virtual influencers began to appear in the market. So some of them just looked almost human, and also some of them just have very distinct, stylized personalities. And I found that many of them actually have a large and loyal followings. So this really makes me curious. So
Mm,
because we know that for human influencers, we always
mm,
just expand their influence through their expertise, their interaction, and their personalities. But for AI and the virtual influencers, they don't not have a real identity or just the real lived experience. So
mm.
what exactly drives the people to trust them or feel connected to them? So I think this question just set right at the intersection of the marketing, AI, and the psychology. So my research just grew from the personal conversation into a broader inquiry about how the people perceive and relate to the non-human influencer personas. And I think that the funding maybe also means for the future of the brand communication.
Wonderful. Vita, your research focuses on anthropomorphism in
Mhm,
virtual influencers. Could you
mhm.
define the key concept of congruence in this context?
I think that in this context, the congruence just refers to the alignment between
Mm,
the virtual influencers' anthropomorphic appearance and their behavior cues. So, in other words, we can see that it's not just whether the influencer looks like human, but
mm,
also they act like human.
mm,
So, and also just, but we're also concerned about these
mm,
two dimensions match each other.
mm,
So when these two Q match,
mm,
either both high or both low, the
mm,
influences feels coherent and
mm,
authentic.
mm,
And also they can further reduce the psychological distance and
mm,
increase their
mm.
perception.
I see.
But when they do not match, like a realistic face with a stiff or unnatural behavior, they will just create a sense of mismatch, and
Mm,
it can make the influencer feels less trustworthy and more distant.
wonderful. I know you use quantitative methodology for your research.
Yes.
And so to study congruence, you use polynomial regression with response surface analysis. How did this methodology help you explore the complex intersection between an influencer's appearance and behavior?
I think for this method just allow me to examine the appearance behaviors simultaneously rather than treating them as separate variables. Traditional interaction methods like ANOVA and also maybe precise, we always use this such models, but they can only tell us whether these two dimensions interact, but they cannot capture whether the high alignments. We also cannot the congruence, so they cannot just capture the whether the high alignment of congruence leads to the better outcomes, nor whether different types of misalignments have the asymmetry effect. But for this method, I think that it can just let us the model the entire surface, and we can see how outcome changes when the appearance and behaviors increase together, and what happens when one is higher than another one, and also whether one dimension matters more. So I think this method is really valuable for us to see the congruence results.
Makes sense. Vita, regarding your finding that behavioral realism is more decisive than virtual realism in building authenticity, what defines effective human-like behavior in an AI?
Uh, I think effective human behaviors means that AI can interact in a way that feel natural rather than
Mm,
robotic. So I
mm,
think it doesn't need to be perfectly. They don't
mm,
need to perfectly imitate humans, but they
mm,
should communicate in a way that make people feel understood. For
mm,
example, maybe AI should respond to the situation and they
mm,
can stay on topic and what they should avoid the repetitive or
mm,
mechanical rewording.
mm,
Another key part for me, I think, is just showing a bit of warmth or
mm,
friendliness in tone.
mm,
They can be very subtle,
mm,
such as acknowledging feeling, reacting with appropriate expressions,
mm.
and maybe all using a conversational phrasing rather than just using the scripted responses statement.
Right. Conversely, what are the most detrimental mechanical behavior an AI can exhibit when paired with a realistic visual appearance?
If a virtual influencer looks very human but
Mm,
acts very mechanical, I think this
yeah.
mismatch will just become very noticeable and
Mm,
uncomfortable.
mm,
The most demanding behavior, I think, just those that breaks the science of natural interaction. For
mm,
example, as I mentioned before, the repetitive or scripted responses is just a signal that AI isn't actually listening to you. And when the same phrases keep appearing, it just
yeah.
remind the audience that the
Yeah.
influence is not real. And
Mm,
also, I think secondly, the lack of emotional reaction.
mm,
So such as the ignoring jokes,
mm,
compliments, or just a changing in tone, just makes
yeah.
the interaction feel flat and distant.
Yeah.
And if the face looks very realistic, but the behavior has no warmth, the
Mm,
contrast feels unsettling, I think.
mm,
Finally, I think that awkward timing or pacing, like
mm,
maybe they can just reply very fast or very slow,
yeah.
or maybe they can ignore the conversational cues,
Yeah.
and maybe they can just interrupt the natural flow of communication, make people
Mm,
feel uncomfortable, I think.
yeah. True. Vita, your work shows that both high congruence and low congruence can be effective. For a brand, when is a simpler low congruence AI influencer the smarter strategic choice?
Low congruence, I think that it will work best when the goal
Yeah.
is not to imitate a human.
Yeah.
Because if you just want to create a clear, stylized brand character, I just
Mm,
strongly suggest to use a low congruence.
mm,
Because a simpler virtual influencer is often the smarter choice, I think.
yeah.
Because when the brand wants to avoid raising expectation for human-like interaction, because when the design is cute, cartoonish, or openly artificial, audience always do not expect emotional depth.
Mm,
So the influencer can still feel likable and trustworthy
mm,
without needing complex behavior.
mm,
And it will also I think it will be especially effective for brands that target on younger audience.
mm,
So because such audience want a playful or fun tone,
yeah.
and brands can just use a cost-effective and easy to maintain content
Mm,
just make them keep loyal. And
mm,
low congress just reduce the risk of the uncanny feeling because it's
mm,
much easier to scale across
mm,
campaigns and
mm.
the single design is also always strategically smart. And when the goal is to be approachable and consistent and low risk, because
Right.
we don't need to deeply human elect for the brand communication and
Right.
also consume money.
Yeah. Following up on that, how does that design strategy help a brand avoid the uncanny valley?
Yeah, I think that just as I said, just keeps both appearance and behavior simple because I think it can just very
Mm,
helpful to avoid the uncanny valley because it doesn't
mm,
trigger human-like
mm,
expectation in the first
mm,
place.
mm,
And when the influencer is
mm,
clear, stylized rather than realistic, people would not expect perfectly human behavior. So
mm,
there's no uncomfortable
mm,
mismatch to notice. It can
mm,
just make the character feel intentional,
mm,
friendly, and easy to accept.
mm. Vita, given AI's ability to create authenticity, what are the ethical responsibilities for brands regarding transparency and disclosure to consumers?
Mm, since the AI just always feel very real, and
Mm,
I think brand have a ethical responsibility to be honest about it. They
mm,
should clearly tell customers when an influencer is
mm,
AI created,
mm,
so people do not feel tricked or misled.
mm,
And this means, for example, the brand should be open in their profile, captions, or company descriptions rather than just hiding them. I think that
mm,
in in just the live streaming commerce, they always just disclose their live streamers as AI one because
mm,
I think that it's not only for the policy restriction and also just as you said, it's the ethical responsibility
mm,
and being transparent can help maintain trust because I think this is a way for brands to show their respect to the audience
mm.
and also ensure that the sense of authenticity comes from a genuine connection, not from the confusion about who or just what the influence really is.
Right. Vita, your research on human influencers found that similarity and interaction can override professional expertise in driving trust. How does this challenge traditional marketing prioritize?
Yeah, this is about my first published paper about the human influencers, and
Mm,
we talk about the role of the homophily. I think
mm,
that this just really challenge the traditional marketing priorities
mm,
because brand always focus on influencer professional expertise
mm,
or status.
mm,
So they assume that the authority is the main driver of trust. But my
mm,
finding just show that people may trust an influencer more when
mm,
they feel similar to them
mm,
or just when the influencer
mm,
interact in a
mm,
warm and personal way. So in
mm,
other words, emotional closeness can just matter more than as
mm,
personality. So this
mm,
means that brands need to shift from the
mm,
choosing the most qualified expert to
mm,
choosing influencers that
mm.
can just create a relatable and interactivity and human connections with the audience.
Right. Vita, and how do these concept of likeness and shared identity translate when the audience is interacting with a virtual influencer?
Mm, I think when the influencer is virtual,
Mm,
Mm, I think that's the feeling of they are like me. I mean that human-friendly definition. So I
mm,
think that this feeling will comes from
mm,
how the character is designed, not from the real life experience, because we are
mm.
know they are faked. They do
Yeah,
not have the real life experience.
yeah.
So I think if the virtual influencer shows similar interest, talks
Mm,
in a similar way, or
mm,
maybe just reflect the audience lifestyle or
mm,
humor,
mm,
people can still feel a sense of the connection. So
mm,
even though the influencer is not human, but the relatable personality they designed and the way they designed for communication can still create a sense of shared identity. I mean that maybe their communication style and also their just emotional tones, I think they
mm.
also can make them feel shared identity.
Right, right. Rita, your recent paper shows that people's response to AI influencers depend on their psychological state. Why do people trust virtual or AI influencers as much as human ones?
I think that they always trust a virtual or
Mm,
influence
mm,
or AI one just as much as human influencer
mm,
when their psychological states fit
mm,
what AI can offer. For example, in my current working paper, we found that when someone experienced high social overload
mm,
and they feel tired from dealing with other people, an AI influencer can feel easier and less demanding and more
mm,
comfortable for them to engage
mm,
with.
mm,
And also for other people with high novelty seeking, they enjoy the new and unique experience.
mm,
So in this way, and they are more open to AI influencers and may even find them more interesting and creative than humans. So I think in such situations, AI and human influencers can be trusted in a similar way, or maybe in a similar level because AI matches what the person is looking for,
mm,
and they can just satisfy them in an emotional or social moment they want.
right. And what psychological states still make human warmth more trusted than AI interaction?
Mm, I think compared to virtual influencer, I think people still trust human ones more when
Mm,
they are
mm,
looking for emotional warmth, and
mm,
also if they want real understanding, they will also follow human one because
yeah.
if someone wants to feel supported,
Mm,
comforted, or connected on a deeper level, a human influencer is more believable because we know
yeah.
they have the real life experience and
Mm,
they can express
mm,
genuine emotion.
mm,
And in these moments, people are not just looking for information or convenient. They want real human present and the
mm,
real human expression. So I think the
mm,
human warmth will just make people feel more trustworthy than
mm,
AI.
mm, right. Vita, do you believe people will become completely comfortable with AI influencers over time?
I think they will become more comfortable with the AI influencer, but not in every situation.
Mm,
We already see that when people are looking for convenience,
mm,
entertainment, and maybe light interactions, they can just
mm,
accept AI very easily. For
mm,
example, you know that the undergraduate always ask ChatGPT for
mm.
some information and to explain their maybe
Yeah,
PowerPoint knowledge,
yeah.
and they can just understand their better.
Mm,
And some people also use the AI to just polish their grammar and writing
mm,
styles. But
mm,
over time, as AI communication improves, this
mm,
comfort will just continue to grow, I think.
mm. Yeah.
And because people will feel more convenient to use them
Mm, mm,
to just make their
yeah,
to make them feel their life more convenient.
yeah.
But when people are looking for emotional support, as I mentioned before, I think that if they want emotional support and deeper understanding or a sense of human warmth, human influencer will still feel more meaningful. So I don't think that AI will replace human influencer in the future, but that these two
Mm,
will coexist and
yeah.
can be chosen for different emotional
Mm,
needs.
yeah. Uh, Vita, if that comfort level does increase, what long-term changes might that cause to the definition of an influencer?
If they feel more comfortable with
Mm,
I think the idea of influencer may shift
mm,
because it will matter less whether the influencer
mm,
is real human, and
mm,
it will matter more whether they
mm,
can just connect with the audience and
mm,
shape their attitude or behavior.
mm,
So, in other words, I think that being an influencer may become less about personal identity, but more
mm,
about their ability to create engagement and meaningful interaction. So even the persona is fully designed, is a fully just artificial, but I
mm,
think that their ability to create engagement will also very valuable for people to
mm,
feel.
mm. So obviously, this area created a lot of opportunities, and students are always wondering what to study. So, Vita, based on your experience, what advice would you give to students who want to specialize in this intersection of AI and consumer behavior?
I would say that just stay hungry, stay curious, and also stay close to the real customer experience
Hmm,
because you know that this field just changes very fast.
yeah.
So you just have to observe how people actually use
Hmm,
and react to human in daily
hmm,
life,
hmm,
not just what the series said, not just
hmm,
focus on the hard
hmm,
copy
hmm,
papers. And also, finally, I think that don't be afraid
hmm,
to start small.
hmm,
Don't be
hmm,
afraid to start small questions because and my supervisor always told me that a simple question always from your own social media habits, and this small question can grow into a very strong research idea. So
hmm,
I think that the key is to notice things that feel
hmm,
new and then ask
hmm,
why they matter.
hmm. And I also want to ask you, in terms of advice to brands, as a lot of brands are using AI and AI influencers, what is your advice to them?
I think that my advice to use AI just I think I have just a very simple suggestion that you use it smartly. So to not use AI to replace all your works and
Mm,
just use it smartly and intelligently and use it as a tool, but not a real human.
mm,
Because if
mm,
you just ask the AI to do every work for you, it will just replace your mind, and you will just I think that you won't not make progress for
mm,
your thinking.
mm.
So I just suggest to use it smartly.
Right. Uh, Vita, as you move toward completing your PhD, what is next for your research and career goals?
I think that as I move forward, finishing my PhD, I want to keep studying how AI is reshaping influencer marketing and how people just build trust with
Mm,
the generative, just with the non-human personality
mm,
generated by just product by generative AI because I think this is a topic I really enjoy in, and
mm,
I think this one just evolved very just fast and quickly. So I think
mm,
the goal is for me is to develop this into a long-term research direction, and
mm,
hopefully I want to just secure a tenure track faculty position so that I can continue this work as a university professor. I
mm.
think that your current work is my goal and my dream.
Wonderful. Rita, thank you so much for sharing your interesting research with us today. We wish you all the best with completing your PhD and career aspirations.
Mhm. Thank you so much for your invitation. I think I really enjoyed today's conversation, and I hope it helps.
Thank you.